Welcome to the Accomplish More podcast, created specifically for the small business owner who doesn't think small. I'm your host, Gayla Scrivener. This show is where you'll learn practical ideas, hints, tips, and tricks to help you grow your small business where you can leverage your time and to accomplish more. Welcome to the Accomplish More podcast. I'm Gayla Scrivener.
I'm Sharon Snow.
And today we are going to go right into time and money.
I want more.
More time, more money. That's all we want. Those are the two biggest stressors I think that we all face. We want more time, we want more money, or we want to save time, we want to save money. How do we do that? And there are so many self-help books, there's productivity things, there's budgeting, all of that. But so we're going to talk about time and money and tracking our time and money. I think that's the very, very, very first step is you don't know where you're going unless you know where you've been.
Correct.
And to track, and let's talk about money, tracking your money. And to me, it's a no-brainer to go ahead and use a system like QuickBooks and use that and track all your expenses, your income coming in, and categorize it. I mean, my accountant loves that. But apparently, not all of his clients give him a nice little QuickBooks backup and be, his job is much easier, I come in contact with a lot of business owners on a daily basis, and there's a lot that go with the shoebox method. You know what I'm talking about?
I do. I'm married to one of those.
Oh, okay. Well, the shoebox method, if anyone doesn't know, or maybe you are guilty of that, or maybe you're not as organized as having things in a shoebox. Not sure.
Oh, dear. Yeah.
I know. You and I are very organized people.
I like to be.
And our spouses may not be the epitome of organization. Thank goodness they have us.
True.
But the shoebox method is, I got a receipt, I'm just going to throw it in the shoebox because that needs to be counted as an expense someday. The problem with that is that you don't have a concise picture of how much are you spending. You might have a gut feeling, but honestly, that just kind of gets out of control. Even with the simplest things. I have a networking meeting every Thursday, and I always buy lunch because I always believe I need to invest that amount of money every week to pay the venue that I am having this meeting because they don't charge us for the room. So they need compensation for the use of the room. Easy to buy lunch. I need to eat anyway. But little expenses like that do add up. And I know from meeting places, we used to meet at one place for a couple of years. And now we have a new meeting place. And I have noticed that my weekly meals, the expenses have gone down because simply of the different venue and maybe my food choices and things like that. And actually, not that I'm on a strict diet or anything like that, but my food choices are different, and that has a difference on my bottom line. So simple things that you may be able to adjust. What if you need to, hey, I can't afford this. Well, how much are you spending on it in the past? So that you can plan for the future if that's really important to do, or that you may spend things differently. Now, QuickBooks is one tool. An old-fashioned checkbook is basically what QuickBooks is, but electronified. But an old-fashioned checkbook, if you are you have a technophobia, I still think that as a business owner, you need to get over your technical issues.
Right.
Because you need to have the tools available so that you put in systems where you can get help. Maybe you're always going to be that bookkeeper person and input everything, which is okay. Or you at least have your accounting bill a little bit cheaper because everything's electronified. You've already done the hard work.
They don't have to go back and do it for you.
They don't have to go over your bank statements and all of that because they have to get it electronified so that they can figure your taxes better. If you have your systems, your bookkeeping in a system like QuickBooks, and that's just what I've used it for years. There are so many other tools, and the tool doesn't matter as long as you use it. And there's something called FreshBooks, and that's the only one I can think of. Do you know of any other systems off the top of your head?
I don't. We have envelopes, one for each month. At the end of that month, I go through and I split it out in an Excel sheet. This is how much you spent on gas, and this is how many miles you drove, each day kind of thing.
So your husband has the envelope method or the shoebox, but the envelope, but he does separate. It's not all the expenses in one big old box.
It's all expenses per month.
And then you electronify it once a month through Excel.
Yep.
So that's your system for your brick and mortar.
Yes.
Yeah. And then, but there are accounting systems out there that, Peachtree, I believe, is one that I've heard of. I don't have any experience with it, but it doesn't matter what the system is as long as you track it, because then your husband knows how much was spent in a month's time because you're putting it in Excel. So you're categorizing it, you're adding it up. That's your system. You're in his system, so that you know at least once a month where you stand.
Yeah.
You know if your revenue was up or down. Obviously with revenue, and then when the bills come in, you kind of feel that, with the cash flow and stuff. But how do you plan for, we've got these certain bills, or we need to buy a new, a security system. When can you budget that? Or how much do you want to budget for? And knowing your income and what you've had in the past versus you can plan for the future. Because in your business, have you come to know which months are busy and which ones are not?
Pretty much.
And you know the waves of your business. You also have times of the month certain days of the month that you're busier.
Right.
And that helps you plan.
We do budget for that to have extra help there.
And then back off when it's slow. And you can anticipate slow months. I know we had a former client of ours, a window washer, Squeegee Squad out of Springfield, Missouri. And Eric knows when he's his slowest months. Well, window washing, typically in the winter, a little bit slower than in the summer. But he still has his commercial customers. And those are still steady even when it's snowing outside, because it is important for a business to have clean windows. That's an impression, I don't know if you've gone to a place and it's like, man, those are kind of nasty. So, but for commercial customers, it's really important to have that. But for residential, they may not be calling.
Yeah.
And so he has lean months and he plans for that. And he knows January, February, March, okay, those are going to be lean. What can I do for that? And he has learned that. And he keeps track of his books, and when you keep track and you have a system, you can invoice better.
Yeah.
And in your shop, you have a computer system that helps you keep track of who owes what on
what day.
On what day. And that is a part of the system. And that is part of your accounting system so that you know how to collect on those outstanding receivables. And that's the same with what I do with QuickBooks. And we have a system that if it were left up to me, because I've delegated that part of the day-to-day bookkeeping. I keep track of knowing the big picture and then categorizing our regular expenses and making sure that those are in there in QuickBooks. I don't do that anymore. I used to. But I don't do that anymore, and I have to put in systems that when I don't touch it on a daily basis like that, I need to come back to reality and put in systems. Maybe I still pay the bills, for example, but I don't have to enter it into the system, so to speak. I have automatic bills, or I actually write checks or what have you, but I need to still make it real and look at the numbers. Then I know how to plan.
Yeah.
But if I didn't have it electronified and see, like, I'm the only one that can sign a check for the business, but I don't have to write the check.
Right.
It saves time.
Yes.
Of course, in this day and age, not very many people write checks. A lot of online banking occurs, and we do that. We have our tools for Scrivener Solutions is reoccurring charges, and we work a lot in the digital world, so that's fine. But sometimes just to track it and have that paper trail.
Well, that way you know where you've been, so you can plan on where you're going to go.
And get a touch of reality. And I think that one of the things that I know as owning a business, or just in general, we as humans, we have such a warped sense of time.
Yes.
We have such a warped sense of reality when it comes to how long things really take. And I don't know if you've worked for someone, maybe you already work for someone like me, but I've worked for bosses before that think that something takes 10 minutes and they say, this is going to be so simple, and why is this taking you so long? You know, and it's just like so stressful because they don't understand the details that happen with it. Or when you think, well, this should be fairly simple, but things go wrong. Yeah. Especially when you have something that deals with the computer.
Anytime you have something dealing with the computer, things can go wrong and your time can be stuck.
And
spinning your wheels.
Or it doesn't work as planned. And I know let's take, for example, a blog post. We have a client, Jen Villa, that we help. I help her get a blog post every month posted on there, on her website. Now, sure, she knows how to do that. She's very fluid in updating her website. She is a very smart woman. She knows how to do that. Well, about 4 years ago or so, I had started working for her, and little by little, she was delegating things. She knows very well that it takes time to get that up there. It's a simple task. She writes the content. I don't have to write it, but it does take time to write it. But she's great at that. She knows her content very well. She writes it. She writes it in Word. You'd think that you just hit copy, paste, and then you put an image in there, you schedule it, and then just boom, it goes. Well, in theory, that should take just a couple minutes. In reality,
it is never that simple.
No. Just every blog post should have an image because that helps promote it and everything like that. That simple fact that I will spend the time to look for the image saves her a tremendous amount of stress and time, because then she's focused on other things. Then pasting into WordPress, the formatting and so she doesn't format in Word, or very little. I just know the parameters and how it should go. When you paste it in on the website, the HTML doesn't understand all of that.
Right.
And so it gets kooky. You got too many spaces in some places. And then when you preview it, there's not spaces where there should be spaces. And how do you, even when you go back and you put a space there, it's still not there. And then how do you work around that? You've got to learn that system. And you're monkeying back and forth to make sure the links are right and all of that.
And your few-minute project has turned into 15, 20, 30 minutes.
And so to pay me 30 minutes to do that, or her monkeying 30 minutes to do that, because her skill level is very high, you know, and she knows how to do that. She taught me a lot of things. So it's not that she doesn't have the skill level, but that 30 minutes she's doing or 30 minutes that I'm doing, it is much more reasonable on her pocketbook for her to pay me that 30 minutes, whereas she is doing more revenue generating things.
Yes, focusing on growing her business.
But honestly, the biggest thing that I know as a business owner, I mean, I lose track of all reality of how things really take, how long things really take. And I hope I'm more reasonable to you girls on the Scrivener Solution team, because I know that when we first get a client, sometimes it takes a little longer.
Yeah.
And it's kind of stressful because you know your skill level, but then you're just like, why is this taking me so long?
And sometimes it's finding their voice, you know, that.
And learning something new. You know, we've got Henry doing videos.
Right.
And the first time took him a long, long time.
Yes.
And now it's becoming a routine, and he's finding efficiencies, and he's getting the groove.
Yeah.
And we tend to find that, but at first things take longer. But the less that you do it, I mean, just for me speaking, the less that I do something, the more warped my reality becomes.
Yeah.
And as business owners, we need to have a good sense of reality when we're managing something or delegating something. And I know for us, we have a pricing structure for virtual assistants. Some of our services are at a flat rate because it's so much better for us to budget and for our clients to budget a flat rate.
Yeah.
If you're going to get social media posts and you're going to get 7 posts a week, and for this many platforms, it's going to be this amount. That's easier to budget.
Easy to budget.
And I know what my income is, and our client knows what they need to budget and always count on. But sometimes things take. I pay all the virtual assistants on the Scrivener Solutions team by the hour. So there's fluctuations. Sometimes it takes longer. Sometimes it doesn't take as long. So what we need to do is even that out. And I know that they're averages, but we need to keep track of that.
That's right.
And we do keep track of it here so that I know that I am bidding the time right. Because, and then I know that if I were left to do some things, it does take longer. I better delegate it to one of you guys because you guys are better at it at certain tasks.
Wow. We're more familiar on a day-to-day basis. Sometimes I wouldn't call it better.
And I keep track of silly things, of my meeting times, sometimes my travel time, sometimes. Now, I don't do this all the time, but I use our system. And by the way, I don't think I mentioned, we use a timekeeping system called Toggle. It's TOGGL. There's no E at the end.
No E at the end. Toggle.com.
Toggle.com. And we found that tool to be very good for our team. And it's a clocking system. It's on the web. And even if you don't have or you lose internet connectivity, you can still use the time.
Right, I've noticed.
The time clock part of it.
It'll keep track even if you do not have internet.
It's a app for your phone or for your tablet, which is awesome. Mm-hmm. And then, so you can take it anywhere. And since we're virtual assistants and we work from anywhere.
We do take it anywhere.
We do take it from anywhere. And for the Scrivener Solutions team, you girls, that's how you get paid. You turn in, you clock in, there's process of knowing which client it was, because some of our time, our revenue comes from billable hours. Mm-hmm. Some of it's flat rate, some of it's billable hours. You guys always get paid by the hour. But for me, I kind of track it a little bit differently so that I can budget. But you get your paycheck just fine.
Magic, yes.
Like magic. Arlene will pull the reports every 2 weeks and pull those times. Actually, she pulls them every week, so she knows, and she keeps up on the billing so that those billed charges are out every week, which is awesome. And then she knows by the time she needs to do payroll, all that's already there in Toggle, which is magical.
Yeah.
Now, me on the team, I don't get an hourly paycheck like you guys. So I use Toggle a lot for non-billable time. And what happens for me, I will clock my time if I'm doing website work for Scrivener Solutions. If I'm in a meeting with Arlene, then I kind of clock that time. What this does for me is I can do a report and see how much time I'm spending in any given month for certain things. And am I spending a lot of time doing Scrivener Solutions marketing? Or why on earth is that taking me 4 hours to do this, even if it's flat rate stuff, And if it's flat rate stuff, I have we do direct mail newsletters. And sometimes I get too involved or I stray or something. And I have learned that to save time, Brandy on our team is doing certain design stuff. And when I shift my focus from design and writing and editing and all of that, and she does the design and I just kind of tweak that and become the editor, saves a lot of time for me to where I am focused on more revenue generating stuff. And because our direct mail newsletters, it's a flat rate. And so if I'm spending 5 hours on something, tinkering with it,
cost effective.
It's not cost effective, but I can pay Brandy to do a particular part of it, which is a great investment because I'm getting revenue. And then great. I figured out years ago, I was doing for Scrivener Solutions, you do all of our social media, which thank you.
Yay.
I love it. You've been doing it for quite some time. Yeah. But at first, in my marketing plan, I wanted to do a post Monday through Friday for Scrivener Solutions on Facebook. And so I started scheduling those, and I took time once a week and I would schedule those. And I got it down to an hour, but honestly, at first it was 3 hours. And what I figured out is sometimes it did take me longer. And why was it taking me longer? Because I got in my own way.
Yeah.
And I tracked. It was man, I'm spending 3 hours. It really doesn't need to be this long. And probably an hour at the most, maybe. I'm guessing. I'd like to budget about that. And so then that's when I came to you and was like, okay, this is what I do. And I would like to delegate this to you. And this is the outcomes I want. This is the frequency. And I want to pay you to do that for me. Now, for me, you've been doing it for so long. It's amazing.
Yay.
Because you give that baseline. Because in social media, you have to post something
Be consistent.
And then when I come around and want to just be extra social, I can put in more posts or share different things or focus on that. But then I am not stressed to have that one consistency part. And that's why, as virtual assistants, that's why we can come in and help our clients do that type of stuff. But how long does it take you to do Scrivener Solutions type?
Approximately 45 minutes for 5 different outlets.
And you know, I got out of my own way because, I mean, first of all, you know our business, you know me, and we talk frequently, and even when you're just guessing and shooting at the hip, but you know our theme of our company, and you know our values and everything, and you actually keep me more on track. It's like, oh, I really like that quote. I need to talk about that more. And 45 minutes where I was agonizing well over an hour, but in my mind, it still is like, well, this shouldn't take very long. But it was taking long because I was in my own way.
And it can happen easily because as the business owner, you know the value of putting in the right words, even if it's a social post or an e-news. You kind of agonize, like you said, over what needs to be out there.
And instead of, well, I guess it's just overthinking things, don't you think? And I know I come across that with many of our clients, that they're overthinking, or they're letting the starting just stop them.
Yes.
Or they are in their own way to stay consistent. It's like, man, this takes me 3 hours. I'm not even going to do it.
Yeah.
And so I think that not always should we use a tool like Toggle to be very, diligent at tracking every second of our day. But I think in periods of our times, I think everyone needs to get a reality check of spending a month and being diligent on clocking in and out.
Yeah.
And being, no matter what industry you're in, if you are a heating and air company and you think that it's supposed to take this long to install a water heater, well, keep track and of how long it really does you to take it. If you're a business that is small enough that you're doing it yourself, take that time. Yeah. Is it that you're spending a lot of time on phone calls? How long does it really take? And Toggle is a really user-friendly type thing. And I don't know I don't know if you know this, Sharon, or not, but you can have 2 different accounts. We've got our Scrivener Solutions account, and that's the one that Arlene gets into. But, I have a travel blog. Been there doing that. Yeah. Been there doing that Robert and I do. And I thought, I'd like to know how much time I'm just kind of spending on that hobby type thing. And so I created another account, I think it's under the same user ID, but there's another section. And Arlene can't see it. You can't see it because you weren't aware of it.
No.
And then I clock into that company, and then I can have those same types of reports, and it's really cool.
Good.
And we had some team members. Norma and Brandy had a project recently that they were paid. They did a research, and they were paid by the line item in an Excel spreadsheet. And I said, it might be good to just kind of just see what your time is and to see if it kind of evaluates to about so much per hour.
Yeah.
It's kind of good. Even though you're going to be paid by the line item, how much is that line item per hour? In your mind, you might have thought it took forever because it was a tedious project. I felt for them, but they did a fantastic job. But in reality, because in this case, it's like, I guess I only spent 3 hours on it. And so I guess my per hour was okay.
Yeah.
And we as business owners, if we keep track once in a while of really where we're spending our time, then we can plan. It's like, maybe I'm wasting too much time here, there, and or when I'm bidding a job, it does not take an hour. It's really a 4-hour job.
Yeah.
So you plan, hope for the best, but plan for the worst, because
right.
things do happen.
Mm-hmm.
And we work in constant contact all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a tedious program. It should look easy, but just like with WordPress, there are things that just don't look quite right. And when you're designing or writing something up, it
is tedious. That's a good word for it.
Yes. And pictures don't come out right. And we're
Mm-hmm.
pretty detail-oriented individuals here at Scrivener Solutions. And it bothers us.
Yeah.
And we have to figure out how to fix that. And then we as a team is like, okay, someone on the team probably has experienced this before. Can you help me?
Yeah.
And we find efficiencies there. And Norma, well, in my networking group, my weekly networking group, I do a little newsletter. It's handed out every week. And I used to do that. And I'd kept track of how long that took. Now, that is something that I do to help my group in general. Mm-hmm. And it's nothing I get paid for. I don't get paid for the paper that it's printed on. I don't get paid for the time. But I'm the leader of that group, and that's part of how it's organized and how I lead that group, and that newsletter helps. Mm-hmm. I figured out, even though I'm not getting paid for that, I delegated that to Norma quite some time ago. And I had a system. And told her where to look for the information, and we have a template. And all she needs to do is fill in the template. And actually, I had it in InDesign because I love InDesign, Adobe InDesign, to design our direct mail newsletters and anything like that. That's just what I'm accustomed to. I'm fast at it. She doesn't have that. She doesn't have that experience, nor that tool. And for our company, it didn't make sense for me to pay for a license for her to do that one thing.
Yeah, especially not being familiar.
Exactly.
With it.
And that's not where her talents lie, is in the design part of it. She works great in templates, but that's not where her talents are. And so I just converted it to Microsoft Publisher. She has that already on her computer.
Yeah.
I took the time, and it did take time to set it up, and then I trained her what to do, where to look, and everything. And she does a fantastic job. She gets that done. It's like magic. I mean, it is. And the investment of, maybe I was spending an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours on that, because then I get sidetracked on doing some other things that's kind of related. Was it necessary or not? I don't know. Things like that. And so she does that now. But because she's familiar with the templates, but when, let's say we get more members, because on the back of that little newsletter, I list all of our members and their contact information. So when we have guests, people can take that and they have that readily available. Well, if we need to add or subtract a line item on that, the formatting gets a little off kilter. Well, she's sometimes afraid to ask me because, like, oh, Gayla's so busy, I'm afraid, and so she'll struggle or whatever. I said, don't struggle, because something that may be real easy for me and I can show you. Or, since she does it so infrequently, Brandy, who's on our team, she's really good at design. She goes in there, takes in a snap of a finger, she just like, okay, I have this table all formatted for you. Here you go. And then I'm not even bothered. So they communicate about that. Yeah. And so we're creating a team that has efficiencies, but I know that it takes some time. And I know sometimes things go wrong.
Yeah.
And that's what we as business owners need to really take advantage of and really do a self-assessment.
Yeah.
And I guess I say, put your big boy pants or big girl pants on. If you don't want to look at your finances because you think, oh, I'm so miserable, you've got to get into the habit of doing that.
Yeah.
if you don't know where your time's going, then how can you improve it?
Yeah.
How can you be more efficient?
Can never control it if you don't know where it is.
And so both with your time and money, the biggest takeaway is to use a tool to track it. And for your money, always use a tool.
Yeah.
For your time, I suggest, especially when you're, it's toward the end of the year, you're getting ready for goal setting and things like that. I challenge everyone that's listening to sign up for some sort of timekeeping. We use Toggle. We love Toggle. But sign up and track your time for a month. And then at the end of that month, look at where you've spent your time. Be diligent at it. And it will give a big picture.
Yep.
So, well, I hope you enjoyed the Accomplish More podcast today. And remember to keep track, because you don't know where you're going unless you know where you've been, right? And we encourage you to subscribe to our channel and feel free to make a comment. We'd love to hear from you.
Let us know how you track your time and money.
Exactly. And why don't you get out there on social media and like our Facebook page and keep track of us that way. We're at Scrivener Solutions. And until next time, have a fantastic week.